In 2007, Bungie delivered the highly anticipated conclusion to their groundbreaking trilogy, Halo 3. Following the immense success of Halo 2, this installment aimed to refine the series' mechanics, expand the sandbox, and tie up the epic story of the Master Chief. Or so we thought. With new equipment and weapons, and enhanced multiplayer that gave creativity to the players, Halo 3 was able to carve its very own legacy. Despite being less renowned as its multiplayer experience, Halo 3 also has its very own campaign. Since I've already done so for Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2, today I want to answer the question, can you beat Halo 3 without jumping? So we're going to start where we always do, setting parameters. So in the case of Halo Combat Evolved and 2, we permitted the use of skulls and glitches in order to help our challenge, since they were available on MCC. But we did set boundaries such as no grenade launching using skulls like Sputnik and Feather. I'm going through the process of discussing these things, but here's the thing. Halo 3 does not have a Sputnik skull like the previous two did. It has one that's similar to it, that has to do with explosion physics, but this time around we are outlawing skulls altogether. Shocking, I know, but unlike the first two, Halo 3's grenades and other sandbox items already impart movement physics, unlike the last two installments. So any boost to them would be an extreme buff. So while skulls are no longer allowed, I will be using these new explosives and other sandbox items if necessary. And last but not least for the rules, glitches are still allowed. I don't even know if I'll be using any or not, we'll just have to see. Oh, also, of course, I've unbound my jump key, I don't want to accidentally hop, you know? 0117 is the first full mission in the game, and unlike the first two, you start in a jungle instead of a nice cozy ship interior. But that's okay, right? Nothing to worry about. Wrong! This mission starts out with a whole slew of jumps. There's a log and several cliff ledges. But let's take it slow. First for the log. There's a tree that isn't quite in the ground, and once under its roots, you can actually run into the rock slope in order to gain momentum, in order to get onto the log itself, and walk off the other side. If this seems familiar to anybody, it is because of the movement physics I discussed in the Halo Combat Evolved video. I'm glad to see this back. We didn't get to make much use of it in Halo 2. But let's continue. The next obstacle is the two back-to-back ledges. I initially figured out you could use the slope for the rock to climb the first ledge, similar to how we just used the other rock. Then I had to think for a little bit about how to get over the second ledge. And after a few minutes, I said to myself, you know, what if I had more speed? So I went back down the ledge and I hit the rock with a running start, and this got me close to the second ledge. Repeating it, I was able to crouch at the peak, and that compressed my hitbox enough to get on top of the ledge. Once again, if this seems familiar, we had the hitbox compression trick used in Halo Combat Evolved. This is a lot of trouble for the first few feet of the mission, but guess what? We aren't done yet. There are two more ledges we need to conquer, so across this pool of water is the next ledge. Unlike the first two, there are no slopes nearby to run into. I tried a couple of tricks for this one. The first was to drop onto the Arbiter and have him carry me across. I think this could work, but the amount of fidgeting required to not fall off would be insane. So instead, I thought of another plan. The next one I tried was spam and crouch in this corner where the Marines were climbing up. This nearly saw success several times. My idea was that the hitboxes colliding would either glitch me on top of a Marine, allowing me to walk onto the ledge, or maybe it could launch me like the Enforcer did in the last video. Instead, it launched the Marines. I think this is because when they clamber, it places their hitbox in between mine and the cave roof, and so when mine expands, it forces theirs out at varying speeds. This did manage to work out though, because this ended up sending a couple Marines into a dirt nap. We didn't try it before because we didn't have grenades yet, but the Marines dropped a couple, so we could make use of these. So by planting a grenade under us and spam crouching again, allows us to hit the roof with enough speed to get us onto the ledge. This worked out because the wall, or the roof, was technically a slope, so it didn't stop all of our momentum. If I'm being honest, I didn't really think that that would work. I thought the grenade's blast would be far too weak, but that wouldn't be the only time one of these solutions actually surprised me. Luckily, we still have one grenade left, and this final ledge has another negative slope that we can utilize. So once again, we plant an explosive under us, and the upward momentum allows us to hit the negative slope and gain height. If we hold forward at the peak of this, we can make it onto the ledge. And to think some of you doubted me. I'm just kidding, but please consider liking and subscribing because trust me, to figure out just this first part, well, that took hours, and of course we're not out of the jungle yet. Literally. There is a massive fallen tree blocking progress along the stream, but you can either use a rock slope to hop onto it, or more easy than that, just duck under the log. After this, the rest of the level goes pretty normal. Brutes and jackals are a pain on legendary, but no real issues keeping the challenge from being complete. The fight at the end of the level around the dam actually had no issues navigating, like you would think, because there are actually a lot of ramps and ladders that you can make use of. I was pretty tough for the first level of the game, especially compared to the others, but we managed to do it. We completed Sierra 117 without jumping. Crow's Nest is more accustomed to an early game level, a human interior with nice, clean architecture, stairs and elevators galore, no unaccompanied ledges. What is an issue is the enemies on Legendary. Drones are a pain until you reduce their numbers, and so are large groups of brutes, especially the chieftains. Regardless, given that these aren't keeping us from actually moving, I eventually get through them. One thing this level does do is introduce us to an interesting piece of equipment. So Halo 3 added equipment into the sandbox, and these are one-time use items that can help out a lot on our challenge. A majority go towards survivability or destruction, but there is one that actually assists in movement. This is the gravity lift. This is the first mission we find one, and as we saw in Halo 2, gravity lifts are extremely helpful when navigating between floors. We don't need it on this mission, but it's still useful to have, and given that this is where you find one, I thought it would be a good place to mention it. We'll likely see this thing helping us out later. But anyways, we arm the bomb, leave the base through the elevator, clearing the level with 0 jumps. Tsavo Highway is your standard vehicle level, which means outside of driving warthogs, there are a few obstacles to worry about. While clearing the vehicle segments, it is important to dismount at the disrupted convoy in order to get a gravity lift from this building. Outside of this, it's nice to just take it slow and let the turret get most of the enemies. Once we get far enough, there is a segment of the highway that has collapsed. I was able to place the gravity lift and levitate over the gap. I think even if you don't have a gravity lift to clear this jump, it's not really an issue because there's a ladder just down the road, but gravity lift does save us some time. After this, we clear the gap and we are at a large firefight that once cleared, we mount up again. We stay in the warthog for a little while longer, and then I get out and I cleaned up the last of the enemies at the end of the level with sniper fire. There are no obstacles I needed to clear on foot, so we easily completed this one. The Storm is an interesting level because it's not too long, but it presents us with our first scarab fight. There are many ways to beat scarabs on this game, including downing their legs to climb aboard. Another way is to drop from above. This would be rather risky on Legendary. And then there's the third way that, given we can't jump, this is our best option. So we down the legs of the scarab, and then with some well-placed rockets and grenades, we can blow it up. Outside of this fight, it is just another standard level. All the interiors are filled with stairs and ramps, and even intrusive geometry doesn't really get in the way that much in this level because you can always just go around it. So we push through all of the wraiths and finally destroy the AA gun at the end of the mission. Floodgate is a really short mission, and it's mostly going through the previous mission just backwards. Welcome back, Halo Combat Evolved. Luckily, nothing much has changed, so we fight through the flood, which are pushovers behind you, and make our way to the downed ship. We find our first energy sword along the way, and this is where we learn that it's not nearly as useful as it was in Halo 2. You would expect the flood-infested ship to give us trouble, but given most of the biomass forms into smooth edges, we were able to make our way through without issue and retrieve Cortana's message. The arc opens with a sniping section. Apart from the enemy resistance, this section is no problem. After that, we mount up to find a landing zone for the Dawn. After grabbing a tank, we pass through the wall and fight another Scarab. Again, since we can't jump, we must rely on good grenade throws in order to blow up the Scarab. The rest of the level is easy to navigate since, as we've learned, the Forerunners love their ramps. The Covenant has 2 towers worth of basic obstacles. There are ramps and elevators to reach our objective. In between, we use Hornets and Warthogs to blow away our enemies. The first challenge we have is the Twin Scare boss fight. Because the difficulty scaling, this becomes a more difficult boss fight. It's not safe to be on the ground given that we are wide open while destroying the Scarab from the ground. But while in the Hornet, it is easy to be blasted out of the air. But once we get one down, the second one is easy to work. When reaching Truth, the Brutes and specifically their fuel rod guns can be a little bit difficult, but it's still possible to get through them. On our way out, the Flood is no issue. Again, they're pushovers, so we have another level complete without jumping. I hate this mission. Cortana is difficult to complete, especially with this challenge. So for starters, I will say that a large portion of the difficulty does not come from the challenge, but from the enemies. The ranged pure forms are a pain in the butt. Setting the difficulty aside though, the level is mostly easy to navigate. The biomass and high charity create soft slopes that service to make vertical traversal easy. The issue we face here comes from clearing horizontal gaps instead of vertical ones. In this specific room full of pure forms and combat forms, there are 2 gaps that are too wide to run across. And each time around, we don't have a gravity lift to help us across. What we have to work with is a brute shot. So the brute shot gives us a tiny bit of a push in terms of movement. Omnidirectional, of course. I picked up on this all throughout the campaign as the brutes pelted me with them. Anyways, when we fire this at our feet, if we time a crouch correctly, we are able to clear these 2 gaps. Once we retrieve Cortana, we have to destroy High Charity's reactors. Some people may think that you have to jump onto the pillars in order to destroy them, kinda like the cables on Halo 2, but you can actually just use grenades to destroy them from afar, so that's what I did to avoid jumping. With the reactors destroyed, all we gotta do is make our way to the Arbiter and escape High Charity without jumping. So the final mission is Halo. This one mirrors the assault on the control room mission from Halo Combat Evolved. Like, literally, it's supposed to be the same control room. But if you saw the first video, you may recall that we never actually had to climb the tower on the first one. So we don't know yet if it's possible to do it, but I'm suspecting it is. Unsurprisingly, the Forerunners love the ramps, so we can make it up quite easy as long as you don't count fighting the Flood tooth and nail for survival. Fighting 343 Guilty Spark himself is really easy, especially if you bring a bubble shield into the boss fight. So we pick up Johnson's laser and avenge him, and then it is time to leave. The snow makes for a gentle ramp in order to reach the cliffs, no jumping necessary, and there are no obstacles between us and Johnson's Warthog from here, so of course all we have left is to drive to the Dawn, and we can easily complete the game. So there you have it, you can beat Halo 3 without jumping. I'll say that Halo 3's challenge was fun, it had a lot of tools to utilize for the challenge, and that made the challenge all the more fun to complete in parts where you actually didn't have access to those things, i.e. the first mission of the game before you get equipment, brute shots, or anything like that. If you have challenge ideas, of course, you can leave them below if you want to see me complete them. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. While you wait for more ones to come, check out the no jump challenges from Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 if you haven't already. And if you are already seen those, well, you're a cool dude because you're a real fan in that case. Aside from the challenge, I want to thank you for watching. We have come a long way since I decided to start doing these dumb, silly challenges. We casually broke through the 1K subscriber milestone, which is baffling. So thank you to everyone who subscribed, and remember I'm doing a Q&A, so if you have questions you want answered, leave them below or on the community post tab. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.